Dear believers and unbelieving kuffar, this must be the most bizarre title we have put up so far. To the Arabs and Mohammedans, this is tantamount to blasphemy. But is it? Has humanity been deceived for the last 100 years into accepting Arab and Mohammedan propaganda regarding the Holy Land as fact? Let us explore this issue based entirely upon Muhammad's Quran and no other. Anyone who has read the Quran, let alone studied it, would know the following. 1. The chapters of the Quran are not written in the order of their alleged revelations to Muhammad. For example, the first verse of the Quran is actually in Surah Al-Alaq 96. Proclaim or read, in the name of thy Lord and Cherisher who created, and not in chapter 1 or 2. It is also untrue that they are in a descending order of the number of verses starting with the highest in chapter 2. 2. The verses and storylines are boringly repetitive. 3. The names of the biblical characters appear all of a sudden without any indication as to which country they lived, in which era, and in what context. 4. Without references to the Bible, no reader of the otherwise incoherent Quran could possibly know the full story of any and all of the biblical characters mentioned therein. Moreover, their stories in the Quran are based upon rabbinic and apocryphal traditions and not upon their originals in the Torah. 5. The Quran as a whole has no beginning, no middle, and no ending, totally unlike the Bible. 6. The stories in the chapters of the Quran jump from one biblical character in one verse to a completely different and unrelated character in a completely different era in the next verse without reason, rhyme, or logic. 7. To compile the story of what we are about to reveal to you, we have had to ferret out all the relevant verses scattered over many chapters of the Quran and put them in a coherent order as faithful to the original story in the Bible as possible. 8. That is why, over the last 1400 years, no follower of Muhammad who has not read the Bible could possibly understand, let alone know, the whole story in a consistent manner. Before revealing the Quran Zionism, it is very important, of course, to explain what Zionism means and is, not according to Arab and Mohammedan distorted propaganda, but to facts. Believers and unbelieving kuffar, please be aware that the immense majority of the followers of Muhammad recognize the word Zionist and Zionism, but have absolutely no understanding of either the meaning or the concept of these words. In Hebrew, Zion is pronounced Zion, a term that most often designates the land of Israel and its capital, Jerusalem. The word is found in texts dating back almost 3 millennia. Originally, it was the name of a Canaanite fortress on top of Mount Zion, which is near Jerusalem, which was captured by King David. David made it a royal residence to start with, and his son Solomon built the first temple on top of it. Henceforth, the whole hill was named Zion. Thereafter, the name of the hill and the city of Jerusalem became synonymous. In many biblical verses, the Israelites were called the people, sons or daughters of Zion. The word Zionism is derived, of course, from and associated with the word Zion or Zion. Zionism is actually the national revival movement for the return of the Jewish diaspora to their homeland of Judea and Samaria, and the resumption of the Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel, the promised land, their birthplace. Zionism was self-consciously the Jewish analog of European national liberation movements of the 19th century. In the modern world, it manifests itself as support for the principle and absolute right of the Jews to live securely in their own homeland, Israel, as they did over a millennia in ancient times, as well as on and off over the centuries ever since. I shall begin with one example of Zionism in the Quran, which is the Quran's version of the Exodus story, starting with Allah's instruction to Moses and Aaron to go to Pharaoh, asking him to release the tribes of Israel from bondage. I shall recite only the relevant verses from the chapters in such a way as to make the storyline similar in manner to its original in the Torah. I shall jump over verses that are either repetitive or not relevant to the flow of the story. Please listen attentively as to how, without our collation in a coherent sequence, the relevant verses of the Quran actually jump from one chapter to a completely different one, since they are scattered all over the chapters of the Quran, and hence, by themselves, do not make a lucid or coherent tale. Those who want the complete verses can read them in the Quran, as I shall be giving you chapter and verse where to find them. Taha 20.47. So go ye both to him, Pharaoh, and say, Verily we are apostles sent by thy Lord. Send forth therefore the children of Israel with us, and afflict them not. With a sign indeed have we come from thy Lord, and peace to all those who follow guidance. Al-A'raf 7.104. Moses said, O Pharaoh, I am an apostle from the Lord of the worlds. Al-A'raf 7.130. We punished the people of Pharaoh with years of drought and shortness of crops, that they might receive admonition. They said to Moses, Whatever be the signs thou bringest to work therewith, the sorcery on us, we shall never believe in thee. So we sent plagues on them, wholesale death, locusts, lice, frogs, and blood. Signs openly self-explained, but they were steeped into arrogance, a people given to sin. Every time the penalty fell on them, they said, O Moses, on our behalf, call on thy Lord in virtue of his promise to thee. If thou wilt remove the penalty from us, we shall truly believe in thee, and we shall send away the children of Israel with thee. But every time we removed the penalty from them, according to a fixed term which they had to fulfill, behold, they broke their word. So we exacted retribution from them. We drowned them in the sea because they rejected our signs and failed to take warning from them. Any of our listeners who have read the biblical original would know that what was allegedly revealed to Muhammad by the angel Gabriel is completely different both in sequence and context. Taha 20.77. We sent an inspiration to Moses. Travel by night with my servants and strike a dry path for them through the sea without fear of being overtaken by Pharaoh and without any other fear. Then Pharaoh pursued them with his forces, but the waters completely overwhelmed them and covered them up. Pharaoh led his people astray instead of leading them aright. Al-A'raf 7.138. We took the children of Israel with safety across the sea. To recap the story thus far, by Allah's instructions, Moses and Aaron requested the release of the Israelite tribes from bondage. Pharaoh refused. Allah punished him with a plague. Pharaoh recanted and asked forgiveness, but when the plague was lifted, he again disobeyed Allah. This continued until 10 plagues were visited upon Pharaoh and Egypt. Finally, Pharaoh allowed the Israelites to leave, but he regretted his decision and pursued them into the Red Sea, where Pharaoh and his troops were drowned by Allah, thus saving Moses and the Israelites. So far, the storyline of the Exodus, as we have rearranged it from the different chapters of the Quran, is relatively faithful to that of the Torah. Taha 20.80. O ye children of Israel, we delivered you from your enemy, and we made a covenant with you on the side of Mount Sinai, and we sent down to you manna and quails. Al-Isra 17.2. We gave Moses the book, Torah, and made it a guide to the children of Israel, commanding, Take not other than me as dispenser of your affairs. Al-A'raf 7.137. And we made a people considered weak and of no account, inheritors of lands in both east and west lands, whereon we sent down our blessings. The fair promise of the Lord was fulfilled for the children of Israel, because they had patience and constancy, and we leveled to the ground the great works and fine buildings which Pharaoh and his people erected with such pride. Inheritors of lands in both east and west lands is actually the promised land of the Israelites.